Hi, how's it going? So I was having a bit of a temper tantrum. That's why I'm late, because I don't always understand technology and how to live stream this. So here I am. I don't know if I'm in the right place, but you know what? I'm here. So how late am I? Only 10, 12 minutes late, right? In the midst of trying to figure everything out, I've got my son texting me saying, hey, I'm going to bring extra people for dinner. And I'm like, okay, because I'm that mom who never ever says no, but it kind of throws me for a tailspin when I'm trying to figure it out. So today we are going to make a family favorite, which is mac and cheese, a homemade mac and cheese, because that is our number one favorite go-to meal in my household. And when I was low on time and had to whip something up quickly for the kids for dinner, it was never pizza. It was always mac and cheese. And you know what? I'm going to talk to you about how much I'm making in a sec, but I'm going to have to add some more because we have more people coming, right? The last minute arrival. Now I'll end up with so much macaroni and cheese I could feed several armies, but that's fine. Too much is better than too little. I'm going to turn this down because that will overflow. I'm going to dump a little water out actually before it overflows. Okay, so hi everybody. I was originally making mac and cheese for 4, so I'm going to stick with these numbers so that you can all see what I'm doing. Macaroni and cheese. While I'm making the macaroni and cheese, I am also going to talk to you a little bit about a mistake that a lot of people make when it comes to their relationship, and it makes me so sad, and it's something that I learned years ago to avoid, and that is doing your own thing. What? Wait, what do you mean? I gotta do my own thing. I gotta live my own life. And I'm not suggesting you shouldn't. I am suggesting that you need to make your life with your partner and have times when you do your own thing. Boil the water with about 2 tablespoons of salt in it, because you got to put salt in. The noodles won't have any flavor. And I've got approximately 2 cups of macaroni, elbow macaroni in there, and dump it in, stir it a little bit so that it doesn't stick to the bottom. Got my strainer ready for when it's cooked. So we're just going to let that boil. I'm going to start the sauce in a minute, but I'm going to start our conversation about doing your own thing. So you hear a lot of people say that, they have all their own things to do. I know one lady who says her husband plays hockey 5 times a week. Really? Women do their book clubs or their, girls' night out or yoga classes or whatever. And we all have to have our own things, right? We all have to pursue our own interests. It makes us more interesting and better partners for sure. But if all of your time outside the house is done on your own without your partner, then you're missing that opportunity to create valuable connection. You're actually putting more distance between you, because as you grow in one direction with your activities and he grows in another direction, or she grows in another direction with their activities, then you become separate. This is especially important when you have kids, right? So when you have kids, you don't want to leave the kids at home by themselves all the time, but you still want to do your things. So, honey, I'm going to do yoga on Tuesday nights, and you're going to go play hockey on Thursday nights. Or, hey, babe, I've got this boys' night that we do go play darts every night on Wednesday, and you can go out with the girls on Friday, whatever. That is super common because you're spelling off times, right? And you're limited time away, so you find those times to work it out. But that's actually when it's so important to connect as a couple, is when your kids are young. Because your kids are impressionable, right? They see and they go, oh, mom's got her life and dad's got his life, and I guess that's what marriage is all about. What you want them to see is, hey, look at how connected my parents are. They're in love. They enjoy being together. They do things together. So you know what? Do something with your kids. I'm going to say cooking together is a great thing. Date night cooking class that you can do in your own home is wonderful. But do things together. Find the time, make the time. You can do it, right? So, it's easy to fall into that rut of I've got other things, I've got other interests, and I'm not going to be able to spend as much time with my partner. But you want to make sure you're making time for your partner. So just like we talk about people coming together in a couple and creating harmony and balance and connection, segue, I'm going to create harmony and balance with 3 different cheeses when I make mac and cheese. So let's hop to the cooking side for a minute. We've got our macaroni cooking, and I'm now going to grate my cheese. I'm going to use 3 different cheeses. And the cheeses that you use, of course, affect the outcome of your sauce and the flavor profile, but it's fun to experiment with different cheeses. Today, I'm using a marble cheddar, a mozzarella, and French Gruyere, which is kind of like a Swiss cheese. It's got kind of a piquant flavor and a really nice texture when it's melted. And I like to have flavor that you can notice. This is the Gruyere. Flavor that you can notice that it sort of tickles your taste buds. So please don't use, mozzarella and mild cheddar, because you're going to end up with a mac and cheese that's sort of bland. But if that's what you like, then that's fine. But I challenge you to go with something a little more exciting. And I've got a little bit of rind here. I'm going to cut off so that I'm not grating the rinds. It doesn't hurt you to grate the rind, but I just prefer not to, because it doesn't melt as well. It doesn't have as nice of a texture. So what we're looking for here is you can really, it's funny, I've been making mac and cheese from scratch for so many years, and I don't always use a recipe. But what you want to look for here is about somewhere between 2 and 4 cups of grated cheese. And I'm going to say sort of the sweet spot in the middle would be 3 cups. So we're going to go with 3 cups of grated cheese. Let's see how much we have after I finish the Gruyere. I like using these little graters that have the lid, and then everything goes in a bowl. I grew up using the sort of triangle-shaped grater, and it was never particularly practical. All right. There we go. So we have approximately 2 cups of grated cheese so far. This is my Gruyere and mozzarella. I'll use pastry scraper to pick this up because we don't want to waste a smidge of it. Then I'll put the lid back on, and I'm going to grate some marble cheese now. And to be honest, if you can't be bothered to grate it, you can absolutely just cut it into chunks. That also works quite nicely. I've done that. It just takes a little bit longer to melt in the sauce. So let's get this grated. I always use my hand flat because I have grated my knuckles a little bit more often than I would care to admit. So let's not grate my knuckles today. All right. So there's the grated cheese. Cheese grated. Let's talk a little bit more about pursuing our own interests in a relationship. Like I said, you want to have your life. You want to live your life and do the things that you want to do. But if you don't prioritize your relationship, then that's sending a message to your partner that says, everybody else is more important than you. My yoga is more important. My hockey is more important. My friends are more important. My book club is more important. Whatever it is, when you don't make time for your partner, you're sending them that message. You're not a priority in my life. And if somebody tells you, whether it's verbally or through their actions, that you're not a priority in their life, how does that make you feel? Doesn't make you feel very good, does it? Because really, we choose to spend our lives with each other, and we want to be a priority because we are important. Having that relationship, hold on. Oh, perfect. That relationship, spending time with your partner, is your future, right? When the kids are grown, when your business is successful, this is the person that you are spending your life with. So you really want to make sure that they're a priority, that you have this fun interaction and connection with them, or else when the time comes, you're not going to have any connection. You're not going to have any commonality with that person. And it's just not going to be great. So you need to make sure that you create time, you set aside time for your partner to do those fun things together. So, blah, 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 back and forth. I am now going to make the sauce. You know what? I was going to make it in a smaller pot. Here's a valuable lesson I'm going to teach you right now. Listen closely. There's comfort in a big pot or a big bowl. What I mean by that is I could make my sauce in here, but I'm going to have trouble stirring it because it's going to want to overflow. But if I do it in the pasta pot, I will have much more room, and it will be much more comfortable stirring it when the time comes. So remember, you can get by with the small pot. If you're going to be stirring and mixing things up, use a bigger one. It's just going to be easier. So we're doing butter and flour. It's called a roux. We use equal amounts of butter and flour. So in this case, I've got a quarter of a cup of butter, and I'm going to use a quarter of a cup of flour. You can use butter or margarine or a combination of both. I like to use a combination of both, to be honest, because I find that just works really nicely. So we're going to let the butter melt. Turn the burner back on. Let the butter melt. When the butter is fully melted, I'm going to add the flour, quarter cup of flour, and I'm going to whisk it in. And I'm going to whisk it constantly, not leave it to bubble, because I want to cook the flour. So I want it to have a bit of a nutty flavor. I want it to be bubbling. I don't want it to be brown, because then that's going to turn my white sauce brown. And it's a visual thing. I don't like it. So I'm melting the butter. I need to work on my studio a little bit so that I can have, a little bit closer, but this works. So my butter is melted. I'm going to take the flour. I'm going to dump it all in. Stir it around. And it's going to be sort of dry and lumpy, but that's just the way it goes when it's mixing in. It should smooth out as you whisk it. And always please use a whisk, because it just makes it so much easier to combine things and to make them smooth if you're using a whisk. If you use a wooden spoon, a lot of people use a wooden spoon maybe up until this point and then a whisk to stir it in. I just prefer to use a whisk the whole time. It doesn't affect it. All right. I can smell that sort of nutty smell. I'm going to show you what it looks like. You can see it sizzling. It doesn't look like anything, really. It just kind of looks like a lumpy flour mixture. So now that that's cooked, I'm going to take this, which is my milk. I've got 2 cups of milk. So far we have a quarter cup of butter, quarter cup of flour, and 2 cups of milk. I'm going to pour about a quarter of it in and stir it up, make it smooth, and it's going to thicken right away, thicken like glue. But that helps get the lumps out. Then I can pour the rest of the milk in and whisk it up. And you want to, at this point, turn the heat down so that it doesn't scorch on the bottom, because that's very much something that happens if you keep the heat too high. So in amongst me preparing to do this class, not being able to figure out how to broadcast in my podcast, and my son calling me saying, can I bring 2 extra people for dinner? I also realized I'm saying, okay, I'm going to ramp up my mac and cheese. And then I realized I don't have enough milk to do that. So it is what it is. I have dinner. It's going to be great. So tonight, funny we're talking about this, but tonight is hockey night at home. So Billy, my beloved, has hockey this evening. And it's funny, when I first met him, he played hockey 2 nights a week. And I think there may have been a discussion. He was thinking of a third one. And I said, well, count me out if there's a third one, because I'm not getting into a relationship with somebody so that they can go and pursue their own interests 24/7, right? And it sounds harsh, but you know, when you commit to spend your life with somebody, you want them to be there. You want to spend the time. Whew, it's a good thing I didn't put this in. I was thinking this was Dijon mustard. It's actually mayonnaise. Mayonnaise I got in France. Like, it's really fancy, fabulous mayonnaise. But, oh, you know what? Okay. So if you know me, no, sorry. I'm losing my mind sometimes, I swear. Dijon mustard. So we have the sauce. We're stirring it up. Oh, it's so nice and smooth. But we want to make the flavor sort of zip, right? So when we do this, we're going to add to the sauce 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard. Trust me, you're not going to get a real Dijon flavor, but you are going to get flavor. And it will just enhance it just that a little bit. And we're going to put Worcestershire sauce. We're going to put about a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce as well. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. We're going to do salt. We're going to do half a teaspoon of salt, but we'll adjust the seasoning later. And some black pepper. I like to use a fresh ground. You use about a half a teaspoon of fresh ground pepper. All right, so the sauce is really nice and thick. I'm going to bring it over and show you. So you can see how, get this so that I don't burn myself. Okay, I burned myself. Not a lot though. You can see how nice and thick it is, right? So we've got the sauce. It's thickened. It's ready to go. And I'm going to dump all the cheese. That's the marble. I've got the Gruyere and the mozzarella. I'm going to put that in. Stir it. We'll take it back over to the heat. I'm going to turn the heat to low. Let it sit for a few moments. Because it's fine. If I've got it on low, it's fine that way. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make some seasoned breadcrumbs to go on the top of this, because we're going to bake it to make it nice and crispy. So when I make the seasoned breadcrumbs, I just take some sort of breadcrumbs. These happen to be Pastine seasoned breadcrumbs. They've got a little parsley and some spices in them. They're not a really strong flavor. And then I'm going to melt some butter, and this should be definitely real butter. It gives a really nice mouthfeel and flavor. And I'm going to put a little bit of fresh garlic in it when it's melted. So let's just come over and melt it in the microwave for a minute. Usually works. And so I have there 1 clove of garlic. It's a small clove because you don't want this to be an overpoweringly garlicky flavor. You just want it to be light flavor. If you don't, and I'm using a garlic press, if you don't have a garlic press, you can just chop it up with a knife by hand. Chop really fine as you can get it. But I find that a garlic press is really a nice way to make sure it's all small bits and you don't get any big surprises. All right. My butter is melted in the magic box. I'll put a little bit of my garlic from my garlic clove in the butter. Mix it up. Got a spoon here. I'm going to pour this in the breadcrumbs and mix it up really well. And this will, when you put the mix the butter in with the breadcrumbs, what this does is when you heat it, you put it on the top of your mac and cheese and you heat it, it just gets really, really nice and crispy. So it's delightful. Okay. Really, really nice and cheesy. The cheese is all melted. It doesn't take long. Look at how nice and cheesy that is. Now, at this point, if you want to, because you've got the cheese and there's so much dairy in the cheese and the milk, you can do what I'm going to do here is you can just add a little bit of chicken stock. I've got chicken stock concentrate. I'm going to put a little bit of chicken stock. So I put about maybe a half a cup of chicken stock just to kind of loosen it up a little bit. That's if you think it's too thick. If it just seems like a really good consistency for coating your macaroni, then that's awesome. Mine was just really thick because of the combination of cheeses. Different cheeses behave different ways, right? Like the mozzarella in there makes it really sort of stretchy like that, which I love. But sometimes you need a little bit of extra chicken stock. So for anybody who's watching this, if you have any questions, chances are when I'm doing the recipe as well as talking relationships, I might not see the questions and I apologize, but feel free to pop the questions in there and I will answer them as soon as I see them. So I'm going to give this a little taste. Oh, that's so good. The combination of cheeses is fantastic. Now, you can see from this, it's definitely sort of a beigey color because I didn't use all cheddar, right? I used mostly white cheese, and then the cheddar I used was a marble. So it doesn't get that sort of orangey color that we all associate with macaroni and cheese. But you know what? The orangey color from cheddar is an added color anyway, so it doesn't need to be bright the way we're sort of used to seeing it. So I've got a big bowl. I've got my handy dandy macaroni here, which I don't rinse my pastas because I like to have the natural starches there. If you want to rinse it, you can. Just make sure two things. The first one is that you rinse it with really hot water. And the second thing is make sure that you rinse it and let it drain really well, because otherwise you're going to bring a lot of the water into your sauce. Whereas if you drain it and don't rinse it with water, you're just going to have the pure pasta, which in my personal opinion, is a little bit better. So I don't tend to drain. All right. So I got my little Tetris thing here. Put this over to the sink. So I've got the pot with the macaroni in it, and I've got all the sauce. I'm going to throw the sauce in. All right. Stir it up. I love that sound that it makes when you're mixing the pasta. It makes that kind of swish, swish, swish sound. Look at this. Doesn't this look delightful? It's funny, you know, I put macaroni and cheese homemade like this in a completely different category than something like Kraft Dinner because it's just so good. And it's, you know, you put some vegetables in it if you want. I think it's so good standalone. If you're a truffle person, you can put a little truffle oil in this, makes it really delightful. But I think that just, you know, a good quality mac and cheese is such a great comfort food. So we're going to bake this. We're going to bake this in. Sorry, I gotta find a container. I don't know where they are. Okay, sorry. This is the first time through. Here's my container. I was actually planning to do the small round one, but because the size increased, because the crowd increased, I had to make more, and I'm gonna have to put it in a different container. So this is just a baking dish. You can use a glass one. This happens to be an enamel coated cast iron one, which is great. We're going to put the mac and cheese in here. Normally what I would do is I would do it in a little round sort of a souffle dish, but this is too big for that. There we go. Now, the best thing about mac and cheese is that if you don't use it all today, you can definitely reheat it. What I do when I reheat it is I will pour a little bit of milk in it, put it in the microwave, and then you can stir it up and it will get creamy. Sometimes it dries, the noodles absorb a little bit. So, I'm not going to lie, the best way to do this is going to be with your hands. Move this out of the way. And then when you have this on top, you can pop it in the oven at 350. If you're holding it till a little bit later, which I'm going to do today, you're probably going to want to heat it up for about half an hour, maybe 45 minutes until it's sort of warm and bubbly all over. If you're putting it in the oven right now, 20 minutes is sufficient because you're really just reheating it and making the top crispy. So there we have it, mac and cheese. Super easy. I'm not going to go down in history as the world's greatest cooking class because I was a bit flustered, so I really apologize for that. If you have any questions, by all means, reach out, ask the questions, contact me through, I think you should be able to chat here, or look me up on Facebook. It's Krista Melanson. You'll be able to see me because I am the relationship chef. Remember that showing your partner, making them understand that they're a priority in your life is tremendously important. If you want your relationship to grow and to thrive and flourish, you need to do things together. Cooking is a wonderful way to do things with your partner. But there's so many other things you can do that involve talking and interaction and having fun together, because the conversation goes from there. Right? If you leave it too long and you say, oh, we're not connected, we're going to have to go to couples therapy. Newsflash, couples therapy is one of the least successful forms of therapy because you focus on the past, you bring up the negative, and it makes it very hard to move forward. So if you can connect through the kitchen, keep your connection strong and vibrant, you're always going to have things to talk about, and you're always going to be able to talk about the important things. So that's it for now. Check me out on Facebook. You will see my link for my couples cooking class, which is so much fun. It's a package that's sent directly to your inbox. You schedule it on your own time. You cook in the privacy of your own kitchen. Clothing is optional. Think 9.5 weeks, right? And you just have a great date night together. My program is called Chef's Kiss. It's Krista-Melanson. Krista-Marie.com/chefskiss, all one word. I would love to have you join and start making your own date night experiences. All right. Thanks for tuning in. I will talk to you again next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, and I promise I will be far more organized. That's it for now. Take care.